a lot of you probably don't know this, but when I was 22, I believe, I was in a really bad motorcycle accident. I was not driving the motorcycle. I was a passenger on the motorcycle, and the driver of the motorcycle was a complete raging moron who sped up to make it through a light because he wanted to beat the car that was about to turn in front of us, and instead the car sped up and he sped up, and then we T-boned the side of a car. I went flying through the air over the car, hit the ground, bounced, helmet came off, bounced again, smacked my head into the ground. At least that's what the police report says. I don't remember any of it. According to the police report and everything I've been told since then or around then, was a family, husband, mother, and 2 children were driving in the same vicinity when they saw the accident. The husband, turns to the children and said, "This is why you never get on a motorcycle." They called 911. The ambulance came, took me away because I was the only one who really got hurt. And I was in kind of like an induced coma for a while in the hospital, because I had a skull fracture and they were worried about brain bleed and all these other things, right? Well, since then, my memory has been absolute trash. And according to doctors over the years, I have a very high chance of early onset dementia due to said skull fracture and head trauma, which is what they tell people if you've been in major accidents, or you've had too many concussions, or you've had too much blunt force trauma to your dome, to where your brain is housed, the thing that keeps you running. You think it's your heart, but your brain is very necessary in life. That if you have too much trauma, there is a very high possibility of dementia, Alzheimer's, things like that, right? I saw somewhere they talked about how let's be very intentional with our words here. You could have more health issues, heart related and things like that as well, because your brain regulates your entire body, right? And since that accident, I'm 43 now. I'll be 44 in January, which, I swear the older you get, the faster those birthdays show up, man. I've noticed that over time, and you guys, if you've ever been here before, you see me struggle with thinking of words and just random things, and you can see, I'm pretty sure you can see, because I can feel the physical impact it has on me when I cannot remember something. I feel it gives me like this weird sense of panic, because in the back of my mind I'm going, oh shit, is this dementia? Or then I'm like, or is it just because you have too much going on in your brain and you there's only so much room for stuff, right? In theory, I'm pretty sure we could all memorize every single encyclopedia and it would work if we just knew how to unlock our brains. I'm sure there's plenty of documentaries about that. But it causes me physical pain when I can't remember something. And my husband, he does this thing where if I don't know something, I'll be like, babe, blah, 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 ask him the question, and he'll be like, you can figure it out. And he's not being an ass. He's trying to get me to use my brain, because if you don't use your brain, just like if you don't use your body, not like prostitutionally, but if you don't move, if you don't do things, everything starts to deteriorate. Your brain, your body, all of it, right? So he'll prod me along. Well, I'll ask, what did we do for lunch last Tuesday? I'll ask some random stupid question, which he will remember because he remembers everything. No blunt force trauma to his head for him, so that's lucky. I'll ask him, and he'll try to trigger my memory to remember, and sometimes it causes me absolute physical pain, and I can feel my mood just going into the crapper because I cannot remember. And I was thinking about it earlier, because the whole reason for this, my mother-in-law is staying with us right now. My brother-in-law, sister-in-law, nephew, and mother-in-law showed up last night from Georgia. My mother-in-law is staying with us while they're here for a couple of days. My brother-in-law, sister-in-law, and nephew are in a hotel because our house isn't big enough to house everybody, and this way they get like a little vacation. My mother-in-law gets to hang out with us, meaning Kevin, her son. My mom will come over and hang out because my mom and my mother-in-law are besties, which is absolutely amazing. How often does that happen? But my mother-in-law, for like 20 years, she had to take care of her mom because her mom was going through, or not for the full 20 years, but towards the end of her taking care of her, before she had to put her in assisted living because it became too much for everybody, she started showing signs of early onset dementia. There was a lot of anger, there was a lot of hostility and all these different things, not remembering things and getting belligerent about it when it's pointed out that you forgot something or you missed something or whatever. And I know I have those moments myself, so I'm constantly quietly terrified that early onset dementia may be already seeping in or is in my future. And I don't generally talk about it because I don't want to put that juju out there, because as my mother-in-law says, what you speak, I'm paraphrasing, but what you speak into existence is what will be. My mother-in-law is very, very spiritual, very religious, and she speaks in Bible quotes, and she speaks in ways that that are different than how I think. But it makes me realize I want to think more like the way she speaks, because, and let me try to figure out how to put all this into a nice little pretty package here so that it makes sense. Here on Squirrel Tribe, we talk about the news, we talk about politics, we talk about all this stuff. And a lot of it is drama, which it's not intentional, but with the news, there's drama, right? And you find yourself constantly, well, maybe not constantly, but you find yourself in these moods because you're letting all these outside forces affect how you feel, how you think, the things that you do. And my mother-in-law, the way she talks about it is, what does that have to do with me? How does that physically affect me? How does that emotionally affect me? How does that affect my life? And a lot of times it doesn't. She's like, then, don't let it upset you. Don't let it whatever. And I personally have to get better at that, because I know there's correlation between your stress levels and your mental cognizance, or your mental decline, or your mental clarity, all these different things, right? One, we talk about, or they talk about, everybody talks about, you got to have your vitamins, you got to have your B12, you got to have all this other stuff. You got to make sure you're getting the right electrolytes and things, because it helps your brain. If your brain functions correctly, everything works better, your heart works better, your entire system. I can't think of all the words because I'm not a doctor. Everything works better if your brain is in top performance, right? And I think a lot of that comes into play when we step back and look at how we let things affect us. So we've talked about it here before. This is not a new conversation. It's just new parts to a conversation, right? But for the last 2 days, we have not talked about politics. I talked to you guys about which is still dramatic and still kind of negative, but also positive. Talked about the 911 call I had to make when I saw a woman slumped over her steering wheel, and then talked about the lack of info when calling the police to check on the woman. Then talked about, just fun things I did with my family over the last 24 hours. And I have noticed that for myself, I feel like I have had more mental clarity in the last 48 hours just from stepping back from things that don't. All of it affects us. I'm not going to say that the politics and things don't affect us, but are they affecting us positively or negatively? So for the past 48, 72 hours, I've stepped back from the things that affect me negatively. And I can feel a very, very big difference in, like I said, mental clarity, my overall mood, everything else. My mother-in-law was talking about it this morning. She had to put her mom into an assisted living home because the dementia and the anger and the physical duress got to be too much for both my mother-in-law and her mom, because my mother-in-law is 74, her mom is, oh Janine, don't get mad, I think Donna is 96. I feel like that's correct. And she had to put her into an assisted living home roughly a year and a half, 2 years ago. I feel like it's been about that amount of time. And she goes and visits her all the time. But now that Donna, that's her name, is in this assisted living facility, she has her own mental clarity, because we talked about this, that there are people who can be toxic for each other. And it doesn't have to be husband and wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, spouses. It could be family. It could be mother, daughter. It could be brother, sister. It could be any of this kind of stuff. It could be coworkers. It could be whatever. Just random people that are more harm than good for each other. And when my mother-in-law put her mom into this assisted living place, my mother-in-law was then able to breathe for herself and do things for herself, which gives her a lighter overall feel, right? Gives her a little more mental clarity, because some of that fear and of her mom and what was going on with her, and some of that stress is off her shoulders and is now being shared amongst other people that are now helping to take care of Donna. Well, Donna then, where she is no longer feeling like she's being, I don't want to use the word talk down to, but I feel like that's how people with dementia may feel when people are trying to correct them on things, that maybe they feel like they're being talked down to or whatever else. Now that Donna's no longer with her daughter in this assisted living place, she is in a much better mood too. So now when they see each other every couple of weeks, everybody's happy. There's no anger, there's no stress, there's no frustration, there's no crying. Everything is good. And that made me think about just life in general, right? I would much rather come on here and be happy and joking and telling y'all funny stuff and happy stuff than the negative. And it's hard to do sometimes, because I know we need to be informed of what's going on in the world. Y'all want to be informed. I want to be informed. I think the way that we inform each other is a lot an easier pill to swallow than the way the news does it, or some of these other, like, I want to call them radicalized channels. I know that's not the right word, but these ones that are like over the top, trying to just scare the absolute piss out of you. I don't see the point in that. But I do realize that, number one, I want mental clarity and stress-free peace more than I want anything else, because my mental state affects not just me. Obviously, if I'm here with y'all, it affects you too. What vibes I give off, a lot of y'all will pick up. So if I come at you in a stressed, panicky, the face, the tone, the everything else, you're going to absorb that. And then you're going to turn around and, in theory, give that same panic and stress and whatever to the next person that you see. And then it feels like this cycle of just squashing where we should be and who we should be and what we should be feeling, right? So I want to bring you more of the upbeat. That way you're not feeling that angst. Angst feels like the right word here. That's nice. I like that one. But the way you feel a lot of times is how you make other people feel. And what I love about my mother-in-law is she is very positive, very upbeat. My husband and I were talking about this a couple days ago. He said, get this, because he's a smart ass, but it's also why I love him. He says, hey, what are the rain chances? And I said, 51% chance of rain. And he goes, how come you didn't say 49% chance it won't rain? And I was like, well, because I just read it from the weather app. Like, it shows you 51%. Like, what do you mean? And so I'm like, right? And he's like, I'm just saying, you could have said 49% chance it won't rain. And I realized that we as people have been programmed to look at the negative, which is 51% chance of rain, that sucks, before you look at the positive. The positive, 49% chance it won't rain, right? And it was just a little thing he was making fun of me for, or joking around about, and it stuck with me, because I was like, man, I talk about finding the silver lining and stuff all the time, but I find myself having that initial negative reaction to things, maybe because of my upbringing, I don't know, but I find myself with the initial negative reaction, versus my husband and his mother-in-law, his mom, my mother-in-law, they generally have an initial positive reaction or positive thought or positive way of looking at things. And my husband has way less stress than I do. He's way less stressed in general than I am. I stress myself out, probably because I look at the negative stuff. My mother-in-law, she's not stressed about anything. She's like, listen, it's in God's hands. It is what it is. This is how it's supposed to be going. I'll let him do his will. Or how does she phrase it? There's a lot of ways that she says things. And as I'm getting older, I realize I have got to step back and, like I say all the time, woosah just a little bit more, because you don't want to get to the last days of your life and be an angry, unhappy person. You want to have light and life and love and clarity and whatever else. My mother's 74 years old, and she said to me today at breakfast, I made breakfast this morning for us, and she said that after she put her mom in the assisted living home, she thought to herself, okay, what next? A lot of people, as they get older, feel like they can't do anything. I was looking at this article on X, and it was some woman in her 50s, and she was talking about how she wanted to be a writer. And these people are telling her, you're already 50. Like, it's too late to do these things. Like, why are you even trying? You're already 50. And here my mother-in-law is at 74 going, all right, what's next? What are we jumping into? Let's start something fun, something new, because she's got her I don't want to say her life back, because that sounds very, very wrong, because she was taking care of her mother, which is a commendable thing, right? her independence back. There we go. Her independence, because it's her getting to focus on herself for a change, right? And so she's like, all right, what am I going to do? What's next? And I think that's a very great way of looking at things, because if you just stop living life, if you stop living your life, it seems like your life will end sooner. That's how I feel about it. Versus if you're living your life, if you're out there doing things and being active and trying to be as positive as possible, you'll have a longer life. Now, that's just my way of thinking, but you never know what's going to happen to you health-wise, right? You just absolutely never know. Which, look, this is the perfect time. Because we're talking about that, I might as well go ahead and do this one, because I haven't mentioned it to you guys in a while. But because of my mother-in-law talking about my grandmother-in-law, is that how that works? And all of her health bills and health care and stuff like that, might as well mention chapter. Since we're here with my partners, let's talk about chapter. Look at all the reflection here. If you guys happen to be on Medicare and you want to make sure that you're still on the correct plan for yourself, given all of the changes that have happened, not just because of one big beautiful bill, but because of maybe your doctor left or something's changed in the hospital system that you're in, you're on different prescriptions, maybe you moved, maybe it's time for you to retire and get off your spouse's insurance or something like that. Make sure you guys give chapter a call. 100% free for you to give them a call. They are based here in the United States of America. You will get somebody on the other end of the phone that you can understand. I've had so many of y'all leave comments that was probably the best part about all of it, was that you could have an actual conversation with the person on the other end, because you could understand each other. And as wrong as that sounds, it is still very, very wanted and needed, and something that makes people happy when you can understand the person on the other end of the phone. But these guys here at Chapter, guys and gals, there are both, they can help you for free to figure out if you have the right plans, your A, B, C, D, all the others. And if you do, they'll tell you, hey, you're good to go. Thanks for calling. Hope you have a great day. But if there's some sort of tweaks they can make to either get you a better doctor or get you better pricing, whatever else there, they will do that. So again, if you guys are interested, free phone call, couple minutes out of your life, right? 513-898-3528 is the phone number. Or if you prefer to do online, you can always go to Ask Chapter. Look, I always mess it up. / right? That's / tribe, and you can do it online. I like talking to people, so I would call, but that's just me. You do you, boo. That's the greatness about all this. But what was I saying? Either way, I did forget what I was saying. This is where my brain goes. Is this early onset dementia, or is it just because you have way too many squirrels running around and they've collided and all thought has left your brain? Honestly, these are the moments where I get a little panicky inside that this is that dementia thing that I was worried about. Either way, as you're getting older, I myself consider myself as the getting older. I mean, technically from the second you're born, you're getting older, right? Let's be fully whatever with that. You're getting older every single time. But I feel like after you hit a certain age, a lot of people have a tendency to kind of close off, when instead you should be like flourishing. You know what you can do when you're older? Say whatever the hell you want, and people are not even going to bat an eye, because they expect it. They expect by the time you hit a certain age that all your F's have been given and you have 0 F's to give. See, I'm trying to be very good with the words here. You have 0 F's to give, and I respect the crap out of people who have no problem saying what they want to say. Whether I agree with it or not doesn't matter. I like that you say what you want to say. I'd rather you be honest with me than, I do want to use this word because I really like this word, pussyfoot around. I don't know why. My Nana used to say it, and it was before people took that word and made it something dirty and vulgar. She used to say that. She also called people heifers, which I loved. I did not know what a heifer was when I was like 9 years old. We're on the way to the bowling alley. Some lady cut her off. She's like, heifer. And I was like, what's that? And she looked at me, she goes, baby cow. And I was like, you just called that lady fat. She goes, no, it's a mentality. She's a heifer. And I was like, all right. So now mentally I will call people heifers if they cut me off in traffic, just, as a reminder for my Nana. Where was I going once again? Either way, I appreciate open, honest thought processes versus non-open, honest thought processes. So say what you want to say, do what you want to do, be who you want to be, whatever. Just make sure that you are trying to find stress-free ways to enjoy your life. I think that's where I was going with this entire thing, is that, like I said, over the last couple of days, not talking politics has made me feel much, much better. I I have so many things saved in X to talk about with y'all today. And I was going to do the live stream, which I mentioned yesterday, so please forgive me for not doing it. I was going to do this live stream. We were going to talk about all these different things. The husband and the not wife who got caught together at the Coldplay concert that is all over social media right now. We were going to talk about that. We were going to mention what's going on with, you know, the Epstein whatever. I was going to talk about how Elon Musk is dragging Trump technically on social media about that whole Epstein thing. I was going to talk about Trump and how he's going to sue the crap out of Murdoch because of this other stuff. I was going to talk about the fact that Benny Johnson posted that the CBDC, central bank digital currency, got shot down in the Senate, Congress, House, somewhere. It passed that there will be no push for CBDC, which is great. A lot of people were worried about central bank digital currency. We were going to have this whole conversation, and then I realized that the more we go, it's going to put me into kind of not the best mood, and that's not how I want to spend the day with my family. So instead, we just had the conversation I really truly wanted to have because it matters to me. That it all matters to me. That sounds stupid. It all matters to me. But it felt like a conversation that needed to be had more so than the other things, because you can get those anywhere else. Everybody's going to be talking about that stuff today. You didn't need my input on it today. I wanted to talk about this other stuff. So that's that. I am terrified of early onset dementia. When I forget a word, I don't know if you can see the panic in my face, but please just know it's there. A lot of people are like, oh, the ADHD. No, it's not. I don't have a label like that, but it is slightly terrifying for myself. Trying to work through it and try to do the things that I can to keep it either at bay or from not kicking in at all. Get the vitamins, try to have more of a stressless, stress-free life, that kind of thing. So for those of you out there who've ever dealt with early onset dementia and anybody, how was it for you? Like, I'm curious, how was it for you? How was it for them? Like, what has been the outcome of stuff like that? Because it is something that is possibly on my bingo card for the future that I did not want there. So, anyways, Squirrel Tribe, I love y'all immensely. Thank you once again for hanging out for another random conversation here in my vehicle where I like to record them. I tried to keep my eyebrows straight. A lot of people that like to make fun of me, it's because of my eyebrows, because like they're normal. But I have a tendency when I talk, I raise this one. No clue why. Just happens. When I'm tipsy, it goes real high. Don't worry. But so I was trying to, but I don't know how, because I'm very facially expressive, which is why I can't Botox, because then I'd be like, you know, nothing would move, and that would just be awkward for my face. So anyway, I tried to stay neutral, but I know it didn't work. So probably half the time I look like this. I didn't draw them this way. I don't draw my eyebrows. This is my eyebrows. This is where they should be, and I'm aware. Just wanted to point that out. All right, that's all. I love y'all. Goodbye.